Recording in progress.
Looks like we have everybody here, so I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Planning Commission. This is Tuesday, September 14th, 2021. If I could get a roll call, please.
Commissioner Grant,
Present.
Commissioner Marhoffen,
Present.
Commissioner Nindell,
Present.
Vice Chair Duffel,
Present.
Chairman Griffith.
Present. Okay, at this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I will ask Commissioner Nindell to lead us, please.
All right. Please stand and place your hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This time, I will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyerhoff, and I have a motion. Could I get a second?
Second.
A motion and a second from Vice Chair Duffel. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Grant,
Aye.
Commissioner Marhoffen,
Aye.
Commissioner Nindell,
Aye.
Vice Chair Duffel,
Aye.
Chairman Griffith.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And up first is minutes. Do we have any changes to the minutes or approve as submitted?
Chair,
Yes.
if I may,
Yes, Commissioner Grant, go ahead.
I would like to address the minutes because it reflects our last meeting. And I wanted to know, at our last meeting for the agenda number, item number 7, I believe it was, the last agenda item, I asked to withdraw my vote, and that was not allowed at that time. So I would like to know what I can do here for a reconsideration, I believe, to go forward. So
Okay,
that will reflect in the agenda
At this
minutes.
time, I'm asking if we approve the minutes or approve them as amended. And if you want
I would like to make a friendly amendment then to approve. I would like to withdraw my vote from the last item, and I would like to make an amendment to those minutes.
Okay, that is not the proper way to address that. I know that there has been a lot of conversation regarding Rosenberg's Rule of Order, and if you were aware of them, you would know the proper way to do it. That is not the time right now. Right now, we are talking about approving the minutes.
That has to do with the minutes, but go ahead.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as is or as amended?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Vice Chair Duffel. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second from Commissioner Nindell. Could I get a roll call vote?
Commissioner Grant,
No.
Commissioner Marhoffen,
Yes.
Commissioner Nindell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duffel,
Yes.
Chairman Griffith.
Aye.
Motion passes with Commissioner Grant in opposition.
Mr. Chair, if I may, could I just have a minute? I cannot hear Commissioner Grant all that well. I don't know if it's just me. Okay, I'm getting the same thing from Wilms. Is there a way to increase the volume a little bit? Or maybe she could do it on her end. I don't know. Okay, thank you so much.
I increased on my end for you.
At this time, I open the floor up to public comments. Pursuant to the Brown Act, any person may comment on matters of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission not listed on the agenda. Do we have anybody for public comments right now?
I do have 2 people registered for general public comments. The first I see on the list is going to be Gino Crisione.
Mr. Cristiano, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Oh, well, I'm just, we have one of our items on agenda. I was just here to hear and listen to what is being approved.
Okay, in that case, we can wait for that agenda item.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
Next was an Andrew Tran, but I do not see him logged into the Zoom.
Okay then, at this time, let's move forward, and if he comes on, we can stop and allow him. For our first item, I am announcing that I will recuse because I am actually in the hospitality industry, and this item may impact my employer, Priosham Hotels, negatively or positively. Therefore, out of abundance of caution, I will recuse from this item. I will turn the floor over to Vice Chair Duffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, we'll wait just a moment for the chair to leave the room, and we will continue with item number 2. Item number 2 is a conditional use permit, ABC License 42, for the Good House Spa Resort. Can I get a staff report, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Vice Chair. This item will be presented by Daniel McVeigh, Assistant Planner.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Vice Chair, fellow planning commissioners. This item is Conditional Use Permit 21-4, excuse me, which is an application for an ABC license type 42 for the Good House Spa Resort. And I do have a short PowerPoint presentation, if you don't mind. Here we are, Conditional Use Permit 21-4. Here's the vicinity map. The Good House is located at 12885 Alicio Road, just north of Hacienda, right near the, I believe, only known roundabout in the city, so they could see it. A little background, it's currently operating facility, spa resort, and on April 21st, 2021, the applicant, Desert Hospitality LLC, submitted a conditional use permit application for this type 42 license, which does allow for the sale of beer and wine for consumption both on or off premises. This use is consistent with the general plan and the DHSMC sections 17.14.020 and 17.12.050, and that is allowed with the approval of a conditional use permit. Additionally, section 17.12.050A of the DHSMC prohibits businesses from selling alcoholic beverages within 500 feet of any religious institution, school, or public park. Staff has evaluated the ABC license and its proximity to sensitive land uses and has determined that the project site is located away from any sensitive land uses. I believe the closest is Cabot Zerxa Elementary, which is well over 1,000 feet away. Overall, the ABC license will not adversely impact the community or the surrounding area because the alcohol license intent is to serve as an added amenity to this hotel spa. Environmental analysis. This is an existing facility. It's not, it's exempt from any environmental review pursuant to section number 15301, class number 1 of the CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. And staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Conditional Use Permit 21-4 with the associated draft conditions of approval. The applicant is here tonight, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. At this time, I'd like to entertain questions from Planning Commission to staff. I would like, if I may, do this a little bit differently this evening to just try and help out with order. I would like, with this being a hybrid meeting, to start with Ms. Grant. Ms. Grant, do you have any questions of staff?
At this time, no, I do not. I have questions later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mehrhoffen?
Yes, I do. If you could bring up page 13. Page 13 on the agenda, if you could put that on the screen, please.
I have my staff report. Is that in the exhibits?
It's, page 13 here is on the, our commissioner's staff report. Yes, page 13 of it.
Whatever it's referring to, I'm sure I can answer that question.
We can't bring a picture up on the screen?
Give me just 1
Is there a
second to
problem
work on that,
with
sir.
putting the agenda on the
Yeah,
screen?
Yeah.
Okay, page 13, please. You may be able to answer a question while we're waiting.
Yes, sir.
This, on and off sale beer and wine license.
Yes.
Why does a hotel need to have off sale?
It's specific to that type for ABC, the Alcoholic Beverage Control Office, whereas they are patrons. Take this, for instance, like I'm staying at the hotel. I don't just have to stay at the bar and have my drink. I could buy a bottle of wine, go back to my room. When I leave, I check out, I can take it with me. It's not for the sale of like people can just walk in, it's like a bar, buy like a Jack and Coke and walk out the door or something like that. So that's why they're allowed to, they can take it to their rooms. And that's my understanding.
Okay, I was understanding it a little different.
I believe that came back another time, so yeah, I was thinking
Yeah,
about
if-
that too.
If you're within the boundaries of the hotel, there would be no reason for the off sale.
I believe
of the
it's
alcohol.
more specific to the ABC office. That's their requirement, under this type 42.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so they can take a half-open container in the car and go.
No, I believe that's against the law.
Okay, so back to the original question, then, if they can't.
Well,
you
think of it, I
just said
could go
they
to Stater
take it
Brothers
from
and
the
buy
room.
beer and I could walk out with it.
Pardon me?
I could go to like Stater Brothers and buy beer and I could leave with it,
Yes, you could.
but not open.
All right, well, we have a police department and the ABC
Yeah.
board, if there's a trouble with that.
Definitely.
They'll take care of it.
Definitely.
Okay, do we have that coming up yet on the screen?
Sir, page 13 of our agenda tonight
Go to it. I can't believe this.
is from the meeting minutes from last meeting.
It's from when?
It's in the meeting minutes. Page 13 is the meeting minutes, it's not this item. Is there something from the item? Do you have it?
Are we on number 2? We're on item number 2, correct?
Yes, sir.
No, go to item number 2. We're on item number 2, page 13.
Of this attachment? Okay.
Yeah, here we go.
I know what you're
12, page 12. Now we only have 12. I don't get a whole 13 on here. There it is. We're missing one page on. Did you guys change this around? No, here it is. Yeah, page 13. We got it now? All righty. So my question here is, I'll blow this up a little bit. It says bar and cafe, bar and caf. And then I see where the kitchen's located. So are they already have a permit for a kitchen?
Yes, and I'll leave that to the applicant who is here, but a restaurant in the Spa Hotel, I'm sure is quite readily available. For the sale of alcohol is completely different with this ABC license. And I do know, and I'll leave that for the applicant, because it's his business that he's running,
Okay.
but I'm quite certain that they do have a kitchen, room service, stuff like that.
All right, well, I'm just looking at the plans here, and it's good to have a cafe when you have alcohol.
Absolutely.
I was just kind of wondering where exactly they're going to be selling it at and what's going on there. And we'll go
Yeah, and I
from
believe
there.
it's in their bar area, but he could speak towards that a
All
lot
right.
more.
I'll wait then.
Any other questions, Commissioner
No.
Mayorhoffen?
Not yet.
Okay, Commissioner Nindell, do you have any
I don't have
questions for
anything, no.
staff? Fantastic, thank you very much, appreciate it. At this time, with no further questions of staff, I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Do we have anyone for the public hearing?
I do not have anybody signed up to speak for this item, except for the applicant, if he'd like to speak.
Okay, would the applicant like to speak?
Mr. Edson?
Yes, please, state your name in the microphone for the record.
Brian Edson. I'm the CEO of Desert Hospitality LLC.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Meyerhoffen, I believe you had a question that for the applicant. I'd like to start with you first if
All
you'd
right.
like.
Thank you, Vice Chair Doval. As we can see here, you heard the question, so if you'd
did.
like to answer it, please
Sure.
do.
So on premises, we do have just one kitchen, but the idea is that we're going to be able to allow, obviously we're a hot spring spa, so we'll be able to have pool service. And so in our main cafe area, which is currently just a room, we will be serving out of there where the orders will be taken, either via digital iPad or, on some sort of device. And then it'll be served from either the bar, which we could actually house a cooler with beer or wine, or in the kitchen itself, we'll have our actual wine cooler.
Okay, that's the only questions I have. Thank you.
Great.
Okay. Commissioner Grant, did you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I did. I wanted to know, presently they were BYOB, and when this is approved, when will BYOB be taken off the board? Or are they BYOB? Let's ask that. Let me ask that question.
Sure, we're currently BYOB, and we will still allow that unless the ABC tells us different.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Ms. Grant?
Not at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Nindell, any questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay, seeing none. You may go ahead and sit down. I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much. At this time, we will take public testimony for those in favor.
There is none.
Okay, seeing none. Public testimony for those opposed.
There is none.
And public testimony for those neutral.
There is none.
Seeing that there is nothing to rebut, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Planning discussion and questions of staff. Commissioner Meyerhoffen, would you like to kick it off? Do you have any questions of staff? Any more questions of staff or discussion on this item?
I thought we were already done with staff, moved on to the,
Well, we're
Okay,
at
go
the
ahead.
point where we're going to discuss it. If there's any other questions that you'd like answered, now would be the time.
no.
Okay. Commissioner Grant?
Yes, I have a question. To my knowledge, there is not any statutory prohibition prohibiting BYOB. Is there something that we have, or is that in California?
Not
as
to
far
my
as
not to
BYOB?
my knowledge.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions of staff or amongst each other, discussion? Okay, at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing. And we have in front of us Conditional Use Permit 21-4 ABC License 42 for the Good House Spa Resort. Is there any discussion or motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Planning Commission approval of CUP 21-4 to approve Type 42 ABC license.
Commissioner Nindell makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Meyerhoffen seconds. Any discussion?
Is it possible that we could amend that motion to include California ABC license?
Well, let's ask the person who made the motion, Commissioner Nindell, Ms. Grant.
I don't understand the issue, so I'm not going to amend the motion now. If somebody else wants to make a motion that reflects that, that's fine.
Okay, at this time, we have a motion on the floor and a second. If we can get a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Grant?
I am going to ask if Commissioner Nindell would withdraw his motion so I could make a proper motion for this, please.
Again, we have a motion and a second on the floor. We need to take care of this motion that's on the floor before we can hear anything else. If the motion fails, we can most definitely entertain another motion. But at this time, we do have a motion on the floor and a second on the floor, and we are calling for a roll call vote on that motion.
I'm abstaining then.
Commissioner Merhoffen,
Yes.
Commissioner Nindell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duffel.
Aye.
Motion passes with Commissioner Grant abstaining.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And can we go ahead and please call for Chair Griffith to come back to the meeting, please? At this time, I will turn the meeting back over to Chair Griffith.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duffel. Okay, we will move on to item number 3. Tentative Tract Map numbers 37793 TM20-5. CNR Realty is requesting approval of a tentative tract map for the subdivision of a single parcel into 9 multifamily residential lots and 1 open area lot. APN 664-130-003. The project is located on the north side of Pierson Boulevard, approximately 1/2 mile west of Little Morongo Road, within the RM Residential Medium Zoning Designation. If I could get staff report, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is the item that I will be presenting to you. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Commission, this item in front of you is a request to subdivide one lot into 9 multifamily lots, as you mentioned. And if we can get the presentation. And I'll show you a map so that you know where this property is located. So here is in front of you the location of the site. It's not a rectangular shape, it's kind of a flag-shaped lot fronting on Pearson Boulevard. The site is comprised of 3.62 acres. The current zoning designation on this property is RM for residential medium. The land use also RM, which allows to a minimum, of 20 dwelling units per acre. A little bit of background on this project. This came to us back in August of 2019. At the time, the zoning designation on this property was for single-family residential. The application was not deemed complete until June of 2021. At that time, as you know, on May of 2020, the city adopted a new general plan update, and with that, there were some properties that changed the zoning designation. This happened to be one of them. And we made the applicant aware of the condition, it now being a multifamily. He redesigned the lot so that he had to meet the minimum lot size of the lots, which is 10,000 minimum lot size. This here is the site design. The NAP not a part, that is the Elks Lodge, I believe, and they're proposing to construct a new street to provide legal access to the 9 lots. And in the back, let me put back the area. As you can see on the northeast corner, there is a wash. So for that purpose, the applicant decided to designate that area as an open lot just because it's undevelopable. And that's the reason why you see that on the portion here. This here was the original submittal. Back again, when it was first submitted, they proposed to do 12 lots, as you can see there. At the time, again, that was single-family residential. This here is the revised site. And the top northeast corner, as you can see, that lot C open area. Again, that is because of the existing wash. Again, access being proposed of Pierson, and the lots there are 9 of them. As you can see on the table here, the minimum is 10,000 square feet. All of those lots meet or exceed that minimum square footage, as you can see on the table. As far as the environmental analysis, again, this goes back to 2017. The initial study was undertaken for the purpose of deciding whether the project may have a significant effect on the environment. On the basis of the initial study, city staff concluded that the project will not have a significant effect on the environment, but that mitigation measures were required. The initial study reflects the independent judgment of the city. It should be noted that the state of California updated CEQA guidelines, including the initial study checklist in December 2018. The M&D addendum and the initial study are consistent with the updated guidelines. And the review period for the mitigated negative declaration started in May of 2021, and it ended in June 23 of 2021. The state clearinghouse number is on the screen for you to see. And the addendum was later prepared that analyzed the newly proposed 9-lot multifamily subdivision. The recommendation from staff is that the Planning Commission adopt the mitigated negative declaration ENB 20-10, prepare for the project, and that the Planning Commission approve the tentative tract map number 37793, subject to the attached conditions of approval and findings. Just a note, this approval is just for the subdivision. It is not for construction of any multifamily units at this time. That will come at a later point when the applicant decides to proceed with the construction of the multifamily units. That concludes staff's presentation, and we're available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Juan. At this time, I'll entertain questions of staff from the Planning Commission. Does anybody have any technical questions for staff?
Yes, Chairman Griffith.
Yes,
I was
Mr.
wondering if we
Meyerhoff.
could bring up this agenda item again and go to page 36, so everybody can see what I'm talking about, and people at home can see what's going on. My main concern while you bring that up is, this is going to be in a wash area, and it's built next door to a mobile home park, and across the street's a mobile home park. All those mobile homes are at least 3 feet up off the ground in case the 100-year flood comes by. So are we going to, is the city going to be requesting that these houses be on a raised elevation?
Not for the existing mobile homes.
No, I mean, for what I'm referring to is that the mobile homes are up high,
Yes.
and as you go down Pearson Boulevard, we see houses that over in that area that have been raised because of the flood area. So my question here is are these houses going to be required to be
Yes,
on
they
a
will be.
raised foundation?
There will be. The next step for the applicant or whoever decides to develop this is to submit a grading plan. The grading plan will have the existing elevations as far as the grade, existing grade, and then the grading plan will show what the proposed elevations will be, so that none of the homes or apartment buildings, condominiums, townhomes, do not get flooded. But that is taken into consideration when they do come in and apply for action building permits and a grading permit.
And that's when you'll determine if they're raised.
Correct. At that time, when they do submittals for the development, part of the process again is to submit what is called a grading plan. And at that time, the grading plan will show existing elevations and the pad elevation to avoid any potential flooding.
The reason why I asked that question, if you'll go to page 89, please. In the first paragraph, you look, it talks about the 100-year flood plan. And there's a section there somewhere that talked about there'll be 2 feet of water coming through that area if there is the 100-year flood, and it may even be 3 feet. So that's why I was asking this question, so I hope the city staff takes that into consideration and
Absolutely.
doesn't overlook that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, that's all I
Thank you,
have.
sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyerhoff. Anybody else have any questions for staff? Seeing none, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing and take testimony from the applicant. Is the applicant with us tonight?
Yes, the applicant is here as well as the engineer. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and as
Hi, this is Amir with Amir Engineering. I'm engineer of the site. If you guys have any question, I'd be glad to answer it.
And I see we have a Mr. Carvalho. Is he going to unmute? There we go.
Yes, I am also here. I don't know if you guys can hear me okay.
Okay. Do we have anybody here in favor of the project?
We do not.
And do we have anybody opposed?
We do not.
Okay. I guess we don't have anybody neutral?
We do not.
All right. No favor, no opposed, no neutral. There's no need for the applicant to rebut since no one has spoken, so I will close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, if I
yes.
may, I don't believe we checked to see if any of the commissioners had questions for the applicant.
Oh, you're correct. Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Does any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. At this time, we can entertain discussion, questions of staff, and entertain a motion. Who would like to start? No one has any questions, no conversation, no discussion. Okay.
May I have the floor, Vice Chair?
Yes, certainly, Vice Chair Duffel. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have an opportunity to speak to a couple of individuals who live in the mobile home park adjacent to this property. And I just wanted to say that hearing from those two individuals, it sounds like the consensus in the mobile home park communities is that they are excited to see some progress moving forward. The person that I spoke to is just a simple resident, not a developer, lives on the other side of the park. But that's the vibe that I'm getting from the residents in the area, is that they are excited that there is going to be some development there.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duffel. Anybody else? This time, I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to move staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duffel. Do I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Nindell. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Grant?
Aye.
Commissioner Merhoffen?
Yes.
Commissioner Nindell?
Aye.
Vice Chair Duffel?
Aye.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We move on to number 4, development permit number 21-8, an application to develop 3 new single-family homes within the Sunset Springs Residential Development Tract Map number 31235. Could I get a staff report on this, please?
Yes, thank you. The project is located north of Mission Lakes Boulevard on the west side of Sonora Drive within the residential low district as shown here. A little bit of background. On June 15th, 2004, the City Council approved tract map number 31235 for a 63-lot subdivision, a development permit and design review for the development, architectural design, and landscape review. On June 4th, 2013, Coachella Valley Housing Coalition received approval of development permit number 06-08 and design review number 08-08 for the architectural design for 32 new single-family homes. On May 5th, 2020, City Council approved development permit number 20-5 for Watermark Homes LLC to develop 11 new single-family homes. On March 9th, 2021, Eline Development submitted a development permit application to develop 3 new homes, which is before you tonight. Shown here are some of the already existing homes within the Sunset Springs residential development. Staff has evaluated the proposed site plans and found the project to be consistent with the development standards of the previously approved tract map and residential low zoning district. Here are the colored renderings for Lot 24, Lot 25, and Lot 26. The proposed homes will be built and designed so that they are consistent with the development standards and architectural of the previously approved development permit and design. The finished colors and materials will have a desert contemporary Mediterranean design utilizing stucco exterior finishes and clay roof tiles. The homes will be reversed to vary the architecture along the street frontages. The typical standard front yard will utilize drought-tolerant landscaping with a combination of trees, shrubs, and small accent plants to balance aesthetic and water usage. On June 15, 2004, the City Council approved the original project and in doing so adopted the mitigated negative declaration for the project. Pursuant to CEQA regulations, once an MD has been adopted for a project, no subsequent environmental review needs to be completed unless there are substantial changes to the project that warrant additional review. At this time, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve development permit number 21-8, subject to the proposed conditions of approval and findings to develop 3 vacant lots within the Sunset Springs Residential Development Tract Map number 31235 for APN 661-490-024, 025, and 026. That concludes my staff report. I am available if you have any questions, and the applicant is also here.
Thank you, Patricia. At this time, I will take questions of staff from Planning Commission. Does anyone have any questions regarding this project?
I only have one kind of,
Commissioner Nindell?
one sort of a question, but it could go to either staff or the developer, the builder, applicant. And it's just in some of the drawings, the photos of the sketches of the proposed houses, the front doors look like they have bars on them. And I was curious, are there going to be bars on these? I mean, are they doors that look like they have bars on them? Is that an intention, or is that just part of sketching, you know, the drawing?
I will let
Can we pull up the PowerPoint just so we can?
One of the reasons I ask is several of the homes in that development have bars on their doors and windows.
No, that's just the, I don't know what you call it, but when somebody knocks, it's just a little opening to view who's at the front door. But if the applicant would like to clarify, he's here.
All right, that's it.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have questions?
I have one question. I asked this
Vice
of
Chair Duffel, please go.
I asked this of staff in our pre-planning commission meeting. There are currently how many vacant lots left to be built out in this development?
So with the proposed project tonight, that's 3, and then there will be 1 remaining.
Okay, and it's my understanding that that particular property is privately owned currently, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so with the exception of the 1 privately owned vacant lot in this development will be completely built out?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duffel. Any other questions? Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing and hear from the applicant, and I hear they are here, correct? You turn the microphone on.
Right here? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm just here to answer any questions. I mean, it's pretty much.
Okay. Could you just state your name for the record?
Chris Ifani.
Okay. Mr. Ifani. Nice to see you again.
Likewise.
Okay. Okay, we'll have a seat and we'll get some questions maybe.
Okay.
All right. We have any testimony in favor of this item?
I have one speaker, that's Russell Betts.
Okay. Mr. Betts, please join us.
These darn masks, you can't see the smile on our face, but Mr. Chair and Planning Commission, it's good to be here. I'm here, my name is Russell Betts, and I'm here as a resident of Sunset Springs Development. And it's my understanding from speaking with the attorney that I can have a First Amendment right to speak regarding this project, so I'm doing so. First, I want to thank the Commission for their past diligence in making sure that our development turned out nice with the infill homes that were there. Everybody in the community is very, very pleased. As Commissioner Duffel mentioned with the other project, that people are happy to see the progress and development, and we're very happy to see our project finished. And I remember from watching the past Commission meeting that Commissioner Duffel was keen to the point that things should match when it came to walls. And there was some debate over vinyl versus concrete. And so I hadn't looked super closely at the agenda item, but I'm hoping that when the commission makes a motion, that they will make sure that there's not vinyl fence, because all the rest of the development is with block wall. And everybody in the community was very pleased to see that the continuity going on there. So that's it. Other than that, we're very happy to see these final 3 lots finished, and I'm aware of the builder. I've seen his work, and it seems to be good quality work. So if we could, the residents would sure appreciate to have block wall, and that would be the end of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Betts. Anybody else in favor?
No,
Anybody opposed?
there's not.
Neutral?
No, sir.
Okay. No need for rebuttal, but maybe some questions for the applicant. If you could approach, I actually have a question. In reference to what Mr. Betts has brought up, they will be block walls, not vinyl, is that correct?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
There's one more thing I would like to hopefully address to it. This particular, we had 3 infill lots, and because one of these plans has already been built. Next, we had 4 of them actually initially. One was built. So with a situation like this in a subdivision that's already been approved, I was wondering if staff, can be able to make the determination, because from my understanding before, it was like that, up to 4 units. Staff could be able to make the determination, because it takes, from the time we designed the rendering of something that's already there, it's taken almost 5-6 months. By this time, we will have completed all these houses. For a situation like this, I was wondering if, the attorney or, the development department should be able to, or the council can give, the authority to the planning director or the development director to be able to make a decision of this nature, so that we don't have to go through this. I don't see.
I can't answer that, but I will ask staff to address that, because it is a valid, I think, question. There may be a particular reason that this is here. So if I could ask for Deputy City Attorney Doria Wilms to address that.
Sorry to correct you, Deputy City Manager.
Deputy City Manager.
I don't want to take away from Jennifer and everything that she's achieved. With that being said, Chris, with all fairness, I would like to research that a little bit more, and then we can get back to you.
Yeah, sure.
And then if there is, either way, we'll get back to you.
Right.
Okay, and then we can explore it further if council wants to evaluate that.
Okay.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I will close the public hearing. Any discussion up here or questions for staff?
I would just like to say I hope you stick with block walls. I've been somewhere recently where the wind was blowing, and they were doing a little landscaping, and apparently they tapped the vinyl fence, put a little gap in there, and it sounded like a whistle going through there. So now I'm kind of opposed to these vinyl walls, so I hope that we stick with block walls everywhere now. And I also hope the city staff will be able to help you out, sir. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyerhoff. And anybody else have anything for staff or discussion? Vice Chair Duffel.
I'd just like to echo Mr. Betts' statements in regards to the block walls. That has been something that I've been a real stickler about. As a resident of Desert Hot Springs, when you buy into a subdivision, you're expecting a certain product. Things happen over time, and sometimes that product isn't always what you expected in the beginning. And sometimes it's challenging, but all of us at a certain point face an opportunity on whether or not we change things or we keep things going the way that they've been going for that particular development. In this particular situation, I tend to agree with Mr. Betts. I love the project. I love the design. I think the developer's done a phenomenal job with being able to blend the homes that he's bringing in with what's currently there. But to echo Mr. Betts' statement, I would like to see the block walls be put in there in a motion to make sure that that happens to protect the homeowners that are already in the development.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duffel. I would entertain a motion with that in there if there are no objections.
I would like to move to approve staff recommendation with a modification that the fences be made out of block wall. No other fencing designs would be acceptable. That would be my motion.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Well, thank you. Commissioner Indell, I have a motion and a second. At this time, we'll take a vote.
Commissioner Grant?
Aye.
Commissioner Merhoffen?
Yes.
Commissioner Nindell?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duffel?
Aye.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. On to number 5. Conditional Use Permit number 21-11. The proposed, it's more like a staff report, but proposed project is a cultivation business park on 2 lots consisting of one 4,000 square foot cannabis retail type building, type V-B, M occupancy, one 8,944 square foot sewage treatment building, type 3, I guess that's III-B, H-2 occupancy, and 13 cultivation buildings, type 2A, F1 occupancy, 2 one-story, 14,792 square foot warehouses, 4 two-story, 29,584 square foot warehouses, and 7 17,888 square foot two-story warehouses, 273,135 square feet total industrial space. APN 666-440 and -001 and 666-440-002. The proposed project site is located on the south side of Dillon Road, approximately 1,350 feet west of Little Morongo Road, within the BP Commercial Business Park and IL Light Industrial Zoning designations. That was a mouthful. If I could get a staff report, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Apologize for the long title on this item. Essentially, that's the title report.
Did I give you a report? Is that what we're saying?
As you stated, this conditional use permit in front of you tonight goes by the name of DHS Business Park. And this is the location of the site just south of Dillon Road and west of Little Morongo. The proposed site is comprised of 9.66 acres. The zoning and land use on this property, as you can see, there is a split zoning designation of BP and industrial on the second property in the back. This, again, as a result of the general plan update and the zoning changes that happened in 2020. The uses that are requested for, which are the cultivation and cannabis retail store, are permitted by CUP, as you can see on table 17.12-0.01. This is a proposed site plan, again fronting on Dillon Road, and the 4,000 square foot building that you see on the top right corner, that is what is being proposed as a cannabis retail store or a dispensary. The rest of the buildings, as you can see, 3 of them are proposed to be one-story buildings. The rest of the buildings are proposed to be two-story buildings. Access to this site is off of Dillon Road for the cannabis retail store. Beers Road is a street with a knuckle that goes west. That is where the main access will be for the proposed cultivation aspect of this project. On closest to Dillon, you can see that there are 2 access points, and those are gated for security purposes. The parking in front of Dillon, that's for the proposed retail cannabis store. And again, for purposes of security, access will be gated, as you can see on both sides of the first building. There is parking around the perimeter of the proposed buildings. And the building furthest to the south that says sewer treatment facility. Originally, this project came with a proposed sewer treatment facility for the entire site. As of last night, that changed, and I will explain why when I get to the end of the presentation. Essentially, the applicant is being told by the health department that each building is supposed to have its own treatment facility, but I will explain that as I continue. These are what the proposed elevations were submitted, and this is what was in your packet again as of Thursday night. Before we completed the staff report, we asked the applicant to see if we could do something more appealing to the building elevations, something that makes it more interesting, rather than just having what you see here, just plain metal buildings. These are the elevations submitted for the one-story buildings. These are what was proposed for the two-story buildings. And again, those change, and I will show you at the end of the presentation what the applicant is proposing. This is the proposed landscape. As you can see, and I gave you the ability to see what the planting palette will be. African Candela 3, Mexican Grass 3, Dwarf Mandrake, Entry Plant, White Wara, and all of those that you see there. I'm not going to go through all of those, but that gives you the ability to see what is being proposed as far as the landscaping material. As far as the parking calculations, the project is exceeding what is required. As you can see, as the cannabis retail use of 4,000 square feet, number of spaces required is 12, but they actually providing 23 parking spaces. Overall, for the cultivation, the required number of parking spaces is 183, but they're providing 253 spaces, and those include 14 spaces for disabled access. This site actually had a previous entitlement. Back in 2017, the Planning Commission recommended approval to the City Council of a zoning map amendment 0117 and general plan amendment 0117. At the time, and again, this is before the general plan update, these properties were zoned RD for rural desert and IL for light industrial, and that changed through those entitlements that I mentioned. As you know, again, with the general plan update, the zoning designation changed. I'm mentioning that to you so that you know that there was a previous entitlement on these properties. As far as environmental analysis, the initial study in mitigating neck deck was prepared for the previous entitlements, the CMA 0117 and GPA 0117. It was published on September 29 of 2017. Additional studies were requested by staff because at the time this was just a zone change in our plan amendment. Now that this is actually for development, we asked the applicant to provide additional studies, and those were the air quality and greenhouse gas impact, noise impact study, and trip generation analysis, and BMT screening. The additional studies determined that the proposed development would not have a significant impact on the environment with the implementation of those mitigation measures. The MND is proposed contains certain mitigation measures for air quality and noise, and there is a mitigation monitoring and reporting program that is attached to this project, and is for consideration by the Planning Commission for adoption, which must be certified prior to final action on the project. Inadvertently, staff saw that there were one error on the expiration date. The expiration date on the staff report reads that the expiration is August 24, 2023. That is not the case. It is 2 years, and that expiration date is September 14 of 2023. So we are asking that you amend that condition as presented. And again, it's just the expiration date to reflect tonight's meeting. And staff felt that we needed to add another condition to this project. And that condition is that the applicant shall obtain one of the approved medical marijuana facilities regulatory permits as stated in ordinance number 2015-059 in order to open the proposed cannabis retail storefront. This came about, as you know, the City Council capped the number of licenses throughout the city, and any new projects coming in would have to obtain one of those licenses that were actually obtained back in 2015. I understand that there is still 2 or 3 available, so this makes it clear to the applicant that obtaining the CUP for the cannabis store gives him the entitlement, but he cannot actually operate the store, the cannabis retail store, without obtaining one of those licenses that were previously approved. With that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve CUP 21-11 for the cultivation and cannabis retail uses, subject to the findings and conditions of approval as stated in the staff report. And I'm going to show you what the applicant submitted just last night. This is what the applicant is proposing. As you can see on the bottom left, that building that was supposed to be a sewer treatment facility, he is now proposing that as a cultivation building, essentially adding more square footage than what was originally proposed. The reason for that, again, as I understand, the applicant was told by the health department that each building is required to have its own treatment facilities. That's the reason why he's proposing to remove the sewer treatment building and add more square footage for cultivation. These are the elevations that he has proposed. As you can see, the elevations are different from what was originally submitted. Staff believes that this is more in concordance with what would be supported by staff for your approval tonight, because those elevations add a little more interest to the buildings. This one here, what I'm highlighting on the bottom left, is the actual cannabis retail building, the 4,000 square foot building. That is actually proposed to be of conventional framing. As you can see, there is stucco and actual stone veneer on the pilasters, as you can see there. So it's more of a conventional design with multiple building materials like wood, stucco, glass, and stone veneer. Those are the changes that, again, came at the last minute, and we just wanted you to be aware that this is what the applicant is proposing. With that, I'll conclude the presentation, and if you have any questions, let us know.
Thank you. I know I have questions. Does anybody else have questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Meyerhoffen.
It's okay, I can wait.
Commissioner Nindell.
Just curious about one thing. It's a very quick question. On page 8 of the draft initial study, negative declaration, there's a little paragraph that caught my eye because I don't really know what it means, and I'm wondering if the city has to do something because of it. It says the proposed land use conversion would result in the southward extension of the existing light industrial district that is situated south of Dillon Road. The current condition of the existing light industrial sector in this vicinity is largely undeveloped, with various approved entitlements for pending development. So my question is, what does that mean? The reason I'm asking is because I thought the city determined that only certain areas of the city would be the industrial zone, right? Or
Right.
cannabis. And this implies that it's extending the industrial zone. That's what I am.
I can answer that. That may have been an oversight on my part. That may have been a finding from a previous time. That's what I think happened. If you can put the PowerPoint, Ms. Palmer, just so we can show that area as to how far the light industrial goes. But that is, to answer your question, that must have been an oversight on my part. I
So the city
apologize.
doesn't have to do anything else.
Right.
Okay, that's it.
Commissioner
But if-
Meyerhoffen.
Yes, thank you. So we don't know what this building is really going to look like. All we know, it's a metal building.
We do know, again, this is what they proposed, but we asked the applicant to see a way that he could make the buildings more appealing. And again, this was just as of Thursday night. The packet had already gone out, and we could not include these additional elevations that you see on the screen. So this is what the applicant is proposing instead of the ones that were part of your package. So essentially, it's, if you approve this tonight, you could be approving what you see on the screen as opposed to the original submittal.
Okay, and I might have missed it. There's a lot of pages to each one of these agenda items. Was the landscaping information, was that just added last night, or
No, sir.
that was in there before?
No, sir, that was part of the original submittal back in June. The only changes, again, were the elevations, again, which staff asked the applicant to see if we could make that
I didn't-
effort.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But this is not a change, this is.
I didn't see it in the agenda packet that was sent to me,
Okay,
so I thought maybe it had been added now, or maybe I missed it, but anyway, that's my question. I just wondered if I missed it, so I need to pay a little bit better attention, or what's going on there. I'm glad there's 253 parking spaces. Now, is there just one egress on this project?
no, sir, there is 3 points of egress. Where you see Beers Road there at the end, that's a knuckle. The street continues, and the name of that street is Thumb Drive. So that is going to be the main access point to the cultivation buildings, the buildings that you see there, except for the one in the corner, the 4,000 square foot building. The access for that will be on the south point. That is going to be a driveway access point off of Dillon. There will also be an additional access point of Beers Road just behind the 4,000 square foot building. And on that building, behind the 4,000 square foot building, there are 2 gates. So those are additional points of access, and those are going to be gated for security purposes.
Okay.
It's a cannabis cultivation project. Most of those projects, as you know, they have security concerns. So those 2 may serve as fire emergency access or exits for fire department. These projects are also reviewed by the fire department. They do have their own regulations and requirements. So those may have been part of what fire required them to do as far as emergency egress. But again, the main point of access to the cultivation buildings is going to be from Beers Road. At that knuckle, that is going to be the main access point. Let me see if I can show you an aerial. See what it says, proposed site? Right above that says Thumb Drive. That's their road at this time. So that is it's a street that is going to be paved at some point. The applicant for this project will be responsible for doing improvements along the frontage of their property. So on Beers Road and Dillon Road, they will be paving the street, curb, gutter, and sidewalk. But the applicant is not responsible for paving Thumb Drive at this time because he's not fronting on the property. We actually have another project just where it says proposed site, where that arrow is. There is another project that has been submitted for cannabis as well. So if that project goes through the entitlement process, which we're doing tonight, at that time, then that developer will be responsible for paving the frontage of Thumb Drive. But to answer your question, there are multiple points of access, sir.
But the employees will only have the one point. I'm not talking about emergency. I'm talking about the employees will have that one point of egress.
Well, that's an operational aspect of the project. The applicant may decide to make the access point of employees at that knuckle on Pearson and Thumb Drive. But that's an operational.
Okay.
Good evening. I apologize if I may. My name is Justin.
Point of order?
We haven't opened the public hearing
Okay.
yet, so if you would just hold off. No problem.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'll wait until, thank you. No
Thank you,
more
sir.
further questions for the staff.
I have a question. If you, so I see we have this up here, the proposed site plan. I have the original. So we have that sewer treatment plant, and in the new one, that has changed substantially, no?
They're actually adding more square footage for cultivation.
Okay.
The building on the bottom left says sewer treatment at 8,944 square feet. What has changed now, that would be a 2-story building, essentially adding more square footage for cultivation.
So I feel, at least from my perspective, that this came in after the agenda went out,
That is correct.
I don't know that we have proper public notice of that change. I myself would not be comfortable moving forward. I would, Madam City Attorney, could you please clarify?
I think that with respect to notice, I don't know exactly what went out with the noticing. We generally just noticed the project itself, which means, the 200 and some odd thousand square feet of cultivation. If in fact there is now more cultivation, though, then I would agree that we go ahead and renotice it. If, however, the cultivation falls within whatever was noticed, then the public did in fact have notice. That being said, I do hear the concerns, especially of the chair, that some of this came in very, very late in the game, and it may, behoove the planning commission, I don't know, to continue it, to allow for that extra noticing. But so long as the noticing went out properly and people are here for that, legally, so long as we're within the realm of actually what went out, which again, I don't know exactly what went out in the notice, we should be fine. Notice should have been properly given in that regard.
So then my question would be, is there an increase in difference in the square footage of cultivation that went out versus what we are now proposing?
There is, sir, as you can see on this exhibit, the building that was proposed to be for the sewer treatment building, it's now showing 17,888 square feet. However, as far as the noticing, and there is a planning mechanism that could actually allow for the minimal increase of square footage for cultivation. We have a minor exemption, I believe, modification, which allows up to 10%. This went out notice to be 250-some thousand square feet. This 17,088 square feet could actually meet that mechanism if that's something that the Planning Commission would consider. And that could be at staff level, again, because it's less than 10%, and that mechanism is available not only for this project, but for any other project, essentially.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have. Anybody else? Okay. At this time, I will open the public hearing and take testimony from the applicant. So, please.
Hi, I apologize for earlier. My name is Justin, and I'm an architect with Synarch Studio. And I'd like to thank Mr. Carrillo. That was an excellent synopsis of the project. And essentially, I'm just here to answer any further questions or any comments you have concerning the project. In terms of the square footage, originally, we had maximized sort of the square footage the way it is right now. However, we were informed that there was not going to be any sewer along Dillon Road, which we found very distressing because when the owner bought the property, there were plans that by 2022 there would be sewer within that building. So we were told that we would have to supply sewage treatment for over 250,000 square feet. So we set aside one of the buildings as a sewage treatment plant. However, in discussions with the health department, they said, well, you can't, if you have a single owner, then that's fine. But if you're going to be selling these buildings, you can't hold the building hostage by having their sewer treatment, and you can charge them whatever you want. So each building has to have its own sewage treatment system. So that's an 8x20 septic tank plus 4 5-foot diameter seepage tanks per building roughly. So we shifted things a little so that we can make that, and then we went ahead and just put that building back, which it was originally a cultivation warehouse. We, against our will, made it a sewage treatment center. And, if we have to make individual sewage treatment for each building, that's what it is, but at least we got to pick up that square footage back. And like Mr. Carrillo said, it is less than 10% of the overall. And I think anybody who would object to 250,000 square feet of cultivation would probably also object to 2,267. So I think we're okay there. But if you have any other questions about the elevations or the development, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I will take, is there anybody who wants to speak in favor of this project?
Well, I have some questions for the applicant.
Yeah, and we'll take testimony of the people in favor, and then we'll get your opportunity to ask, okay?
I do have a Gabriel King that would like to speak on this item.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. King. Go ahead.
Hi, how you doing? See, my friend Russell, we've been friends forever, and he dragged me down here, so now I'm going to stand up and get myself into trouble here. I'll tell you my history. Okay, so I was on the Planning Commission twice in Desert Hot Springs. I was on the Architectural Review. That beautiful landscaping that you see come up Palm Drive, that's pretty much me. And the artwork, which we fought the Builders Association, because their standard was that since Desert Hot Springs did not have art, then we shouldn't have art. And we fought them, and we have art. So you see all that beautiful art? That's us, that's me. I'm not a carpetbagger. I live in Big Bear City, and because my wife didn't like the heat. I'm doing a ton of work here. I just got back from a house I'm doing in thermal remodels. It's a 14-bedroom, $78,000 square foot Spanish villa. Desert Hot Springs has a special place in my heart, and I've really worked very hard and clawed and fought and got in trouble and recalls and all sorts of other stuff, but I've always tried really hard to do what I feel in my heart is the best thing for Desert Hot Springs. The sign ordinance that you have is my creation. The safe paths, because children were getting hit all the time, and we got all those sidewalks on the major street. And I had to fight people to have safe paths. Anyway, I was looking at this, and I tried really hard to make Desert Hot Springs a place that people would be proud to live in. And I've always told people, you got the I-10 freeway, you got hot sand in Desert Hot Springs, and you got hot sand in Rancho Mirage and Indian Wells. And there's no difference between this hot sand and that hot sand other than perception. And I always believe that we should ask, this is a great city, and we should be proud to live here. And we should accept excellence. I mean, it doesn't have to be Indian Wells, but it should be above the minimum standard. And you have corridors that coming into Desert Hot Springs. So it's very important how people feel. Now, you come up Palm Drive and you got all that beautiful art, you got that landscaping, is great. You're going to drive up Desert Hot Springs and you're going to see this. This is terrible. This is for testimony in favor first. I don't want to be just disparaging. Let's just say I think that we can do better. If you go down...
So you're testifying this was people who were testifying in favor of this project, are you not?
No, I'm testifying against. Maybe
you're testifying against.
I apologize. Okay. Yeah, so anyway, if you go down Palm Drive to Gene Autry Trail, and you go into the Palm Springs industrial area, and there are a whole bunch of metal buildings. And a metal building is the way to go because you can do a lot of square footage for pretty cheaply. But if you go down there in Palm Springs, the buildings that face that corridor, which is our corridor, they are plastered, they got facades, they have a lot of landscaping, they got a lot of in-out. It looks really nice. It looks really nice. My feeling is, and I'm going to get myself in trouble, I always do that. Anyway, my wife died 2 weeks ago, so I'm just, doing stuff. So anyway, I'm falling apart here. But anyway, I just feel that we can do a lot better than this. And I think that if this was in an industrial project, an industrial area, that's off the road, that's fine. But when it's Dillon or it's Palm Canyon or is any of the major Mission Lakes, well, any major stuff that comes to this town, it should look good. And it should look just as good as that landscaping and that art that I fought so hard for that goes up Palm Canyon Drive. Now, I looked at this and I'm like, I was appalled. Anyway, I was appalled, and then we come in, and then the last moment, you know, this guy submits something else, and it's a little better, like about 10% better, but I think that we need to, if it was me, I would eliminate one of the buildings, I'd create some landscaping in front on Dillon, because, I mean, they're maxing this thing out, and that's fine. When I was on the Planning Commission, I always had a philosophy, and my philosophy was to never say no. But if there was something wrong, I made them earn it. If they wanted to do something to Desert Hot Springs, I made sure that project looked as good as it possibly could. You can still have the square footage, you can still have all the stuff, but you need to respect the community. And I'm not saying you, I'm saying whoever comes in. And they need to make this look nice. And I'll be, you know, changing the little, you know, things here or that, putting a different color, you know, no. I think we can look at the corridors in Palm Springs all on the same road and maybe use that as an example to maybe up our thing. Because I think Desert Hot Springs deserves better. And I love Desert Hot Springs. And my wife who died, I didn't live here because she doesn't like the heat. And she came down, it was really cool, and she wanted to buy a house. I said, wait, you've not been here during summertime. You need to be here summertime. But anyway, so that's just my feeling. I think at the very least, you should, or I would suggest, respectfully suggest, that this thing goes back, and that, because you need more than one day to approve something that was coming at the last moment. And also suggest that they make these, that you should have a street scene from off of Dillon with the landscaping and everything from one end to the other, everything, even the electrical poles, and to see how it all works together. And I just really love Desert Hot Springs, and I would hate to see this or what they had up there go through. And I'm not trying to say no to the applicant. I'm not saying no to the project, but I'm saying yes to the project. But let's do something that we can all really be proud of, and not some stripped down or slightly elevated stuff. That's my opinion. I'm doing a house in Desert Hot Springs. It's going to be a Spanish villa. It's about 6,500 square feet. And I'm kind of excited because I do all my big houses elsewhere. But, you know, it'll get built and you'll be able to see that. But it's attention to detail and make this something that we really like, not just cramming stuff in, you know. So anyway, so I'll just shut up, and I'm in trouble now, I know.
No,
so
thank you.
Anyway, but I just, you know, but if you look at what I've done, a lot of the stuff that looks good in Desert Hot Springs is my effort and a lot of people with me. And I don't want to see our corridors really have to look good, and they have to look good from the street as people drive in. This does not look good. In my professional drawing 35 years in the Coachella Valley opinion, and I'm not saying no, I'm saying yes to the project, but it should really look really sharp from Dillon.
Thank you for comments.
Thank you so much.
Do we have anybody else opposed?
No, we do not.
And just ask again, do we have anybody in favor?
No, we do not.
Okay, and anybody neutral?
No.
I will give the applicant an opportunity to rebut, should he desire, before we ask him questions ourselves.
Hello again, I'm Justin. The gentleman who just spoke is really, he's correct. I think that, you know, the city does want its corridors to look nice. They do want all the elevations, you know, to look nice from driving down that street. There were a couple things. We could have spent more time on the elevations initially, and of course the planning department picked up on that, which is why we redid the elevations, and we also submitted some imagery just to give them a better idea of, since we didn't have 3D drawings yet, of what we were going for. And I believe that it's a significant improvement in terms of the elevations of those buildings. That's one issue. The second one is, essentially, there's a property line about 60 feet from Dillon, and there's two zones. One is a light industrial, where all the cultivation buildings are, and one is retail. So because of security issues, there will be no direct access from the public onto the cultivation portion of the site from Dillon Road. And in fact, that whole area is going to have a security fence around it and planting to specifically block the views of those buildings from the street. And if you look on the elevations that we have sent, the more recent ones, you can see there's the line of sight from the street. So really, there's just going to be one retail building with lots of landscaping on the front, and then facing Dillon, and then Pierce Road, which right now is just a dirt street, which our client will put curb and gutters and paving on. The entrance is going to be in the middle further down. So driving down the corridor, all you'll see is a retail building with landscaping. You won't actually be able to access the building, except for fire and emergencies and the employees, through the side gate that's at the end of what is now kind of a dirt cul-de-sac at the end of Pierce. So we tried to address how it would look from the corridor, and security concerns and access concerns for garbage and fire and things like that. And I think we've done a pretty decent job. So if you have any other questions, just let me know.
Thank you. I do believe that I know that Commissioner Meyerhoffen has a question. So if you would mind, just because he's going to ask. So
Don't run away from me now.
Almost got away.
Yeah. Pierce Road is kind of narrow right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be widened into 2 lanes? Or just the one?
I'm
one
sorry,
lane
are
it
you
is
referring
now?
to Dillon or Pierce?
Huh?
Which lanes?
The road that goes down the side. Not Dillon, but the other.
Yeah, that's Pierce Road, and right now, we are dedicating 55 feet of our property to a future right-of-way for that street, so it is going to be significantly wider. Perhaps Mr. Carrillo might know more details about that than I do. I'm not sure what the long-term plans are. I know we had to give up 55 feet of our property along that whole strip, so I'm assuming it's getting wider.
If I may, yes. All the streets throughout the city have a minimum right-of-way designation, and the applicant is required to dedicate portion of his property to make up to the width of that street. The applicant is responsible from the center line of the street towards his property. So there is a minimum width of that street, and that's per the general plan and things that happen through analysis and those kind of things. And maybe Mr. Porras can address that better. But there are minimum street widths that are required. The street that is there right now, it's a road, it's a dirt road right now. There's really no indicators of how wide it is because it's not paved. But once the applicant proceeds with the project, they will be building the curb and gutter sidewalk, and then that will be an indicator of where the center line of the road will be. When development comes on the opposite side, then those developers will be responsible for doing the other half.
I think on the other side is Angel View, and they're using that to get into the dirt parking lot there.
Right.
So I was just curious of how much traffic's going to be going down that road with the other development coming on the south side of Angel View there. That'll be another big development and more traffic.
Yeah,
and you know how I am about this traffic thing. So, that's a concern. It'll help if it's widened.
Part of the analysis of the environmental study includes traffic. That is part of what was submitted for staff review and for compliance with one of the CEQA elements, which is traffic being one of them, whether it's vehicles miles traveled, VMTs, or level of service, the designation of the street, whatever that is. But that is part of the process, and there was a study submitted. And in fact, the applicant is conditioned to submit a study once they proceed with the development, as they want to phase it out or do it at once. But it's part of the analysis, the traffic component that this project will bring.
And I have one more question for you,
Sure.
sir, if you don't mind waiting.
Not at all.
Is there any plans for a turn lane being put in on Dillon?
For what lane, I'm sorry?
A turning lane to?
A turn lane on Dillon? I don't believe that that's required, and again,
Mr.
that's
Chair,
part of,
if I may, Mr. Chair, so Dillon Road will be widened to turn right away. There's no turn lane. There was a traffic study that said no turning was required. The turn lane would actually end up being in the neighbor's property. It'll be the opposite direction, so there's no turn lane going in. But there is a striping that will allow a buffer area there because it would be wider than the neighboring property. Pierce Road is a two-way road, so there will be sufficient for two-way vehicle. Even though it's a half-width, it'll still be two-way road.
Okay,
That can
thank
make
you.
sense.
How many, you're gonna have 3 shifts running here, right?
Yes, 3 8-hour shifts.
And how many employees will you have on each shift? You have any idea?
About 6.
6 employees
Yes.
for all that?
Well, most of it is grow space, and it really, you only get more people in when they rotate their harvest. It's like a bay at a time, kind of 40 foot by 40 foot bay. And so, in fact, the parking requirements is 1 per 2,500 square feet because these, compared to warehouses or manufacturing, I mean, this uses the lowest number of employees per square foot than almost any other application because it's mostly just grow space and mechanical space and just a little administration. That's pretty much it.
And when you have those bud tenders coming, that will increase.
It should, yeah, it should,
Yeah.
it should almost double for a day or something like that. However, they rotate them so that they're not all doing it at the same time. You know what I mean?
Okay. I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyerhoffen. Does anybody else have any questions for the applicants? I just have one just to clarify because you did state these are actually going to be individually for sale, correct?
That is the plan as it stands right now. We are hoping to get a single buyer to buy them all, but we can't guarantee that, so we just kind of have to assume moving forward that there will be individual owners.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're
That's all I
welcome.
have. Okay, at this time, I will close the public hearing and we can discuss this and any questions for staff. Who would like to go first? Vice Chair Duffel, I see you thinking.
I'd just like to say, I'm not opposed to this project, obviously. I think it's a great project, a great area for the project. I do have some concerns, though, with time frame and the amount of time that we had to go over some of the changes that have come through. And some of those changes, in my opinion, are pretty major. I would personally have a real hard time coming to a finite decision this evening on this particular item, and I would hope that the rest of the commission would agree and maybe consider postponing this to a date certain.
Are you offering a motion at this time?
If there's no other discussion, I want to wait and see if there's any other discussion first.
Anybody have any other discussion regarding this?
I do.
Commissioner Grant, go ahead.
My thoughts were the exact same, given the time frame as far as the information that we received that came in. I figured that because the public might not have had an opportunity to review, that we should pretty much continue this until the next meeting.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Duffel. I think you have your answer.
Okay. I'd like to, at this point, make a motion to continue this item to a date specific of October 12th, 2021, which should be our next Planning Commission meeting.
I will second that.
Is there any other commissioner
Okay, I have a-
comments, or before we go with the motion?
We can have some discussion on this, yes?
I know you and Vice Chair Duffel normally don't like continuances.
That is correct, but there's specific
In this
reasons.
case, it might be a good idea. I would be opposed to it today because I don't like the metal building idea. I think we can do better for Desert Hot Springs. There's a problem with those metal buildings out there, the wind knocking the metal loose. I also have a great concern for the traffic in that area. I've been to Angel View more than once. I used to go down there quite a bit. And when the truck stops to get in or another car stops to get in, they have to wait and the traffic starts backing up. So with your project, Angel View, and the other project behind you, I think we're going to have a real problem with the traffic. So I hope that can be looked at also and explain, show me some photos or something of how the staff plans on taking care of that problem. I'm sorry that we can't have sewer down that way. And I'm opposed of developers having to put their own sewer treatment in there. I mean, all of a sudden now you spend that money on that, and then the water district decides to bring sewer. And now you got to pay for hookup there on that sewer. It doesn't make sense to me. It just, if the sewer's not there, and it's a problem down in that area with something else going on, but between two water districts there. And that problem is trying to get worked out. And I hope that problem gets worked out before you start this project. I don't know if it will, but a continuance may give you time to come back to the commission with some of my concerns. And hopefully I'll give you a yes vote then. I think that's all I have.
Okay, any other discussion regarding the motion in the second? Okay, at this time I will take a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Grant?
Aye.
Commissioner Merhoffen?
Yes.
Commissioner Nindell?
Aye.
Vice Chair Duffel?
Aye.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. At this time I will ask, I know that you have been waiting quite some time. Does anybody need a little break? Seeing none.
I would like to have a break.
Okay, so I say let's recess. It is, what time is it? 7:31. Maybe we come back here in about 9 minutes. We'll start back at 7:40, okay? Okay, looks like we are all back. We can reconvene. We will move on to item number 6, Development Permit DP 21-15 Pearson pop-ups. If I could get a staff report, please.
Yes, good evening again, Mr. Chairman, fellow planning commissioners. Yes, this item is Development Permit 21-15 Pearson pop-ups, and once again, I do have a short PowerPoint presentation. Okay, Pearson pop-ups, Development Permit 21-15. Here's the vicinity map showing the general area. It's on 2 now vacant parcels, 639-232-035 and 036, located on the northern side of Pierson Boulevard in between West Drive and Cactus Drive. These properties actually do have addresses because at one point there was some structures there. All right, here's a little background. The applicants, Richard and Sue Feenstra, they filed an application to develop these 2 vacant parcels into a street market consisting of 6 micro buildings at 300 square feet each for a total of 1,800 square feet. Project, once again, is located on the northern side of Pierson Boulevard in between West Drive and Cactus Drive and is within the Commercial General Zoning District. This project consists of 2 individual parcels, as I mentioned, 639-232-035 and 036, and these will both have to be merged as a condition if they are approved. And here's some of the concepts that the Feenstra has provided us, very beautifully designed. What you're seeing there on the left is the fronting Pierson. And on the right, you'll see the front, and they also do have an application for art in public places for the mural. And you can also see the side there from the east. Aerial, showing you how the layout will be. You'll see the 12 parking spots. Now, for retail commercial, in the off-street parking standards in the municipal code, for retail commercial, it's 1 per 250 square feet of gross floor area. They have 1,800, do the math on that, divide that by 250, it's about 7.2. We'll round that up to 8, they provide 12. Obviously, one is ADA accessible, van accessible. And beautifully landscaped to complement the neighborhood, which we hope to be revitalized during the next few years in this very corridor where it's gonna be hopefully a very booming area with a lot of development. Here's some elevations with some sections, as you can see. I was thinking about, they're refurbished modular buildings, such as our old, our old city hall, right? So you strip with steel frames. So you strip those off. You've got great buildings, and then what they're proposing to use as materials, I think, is a great rustic feel and perfect for the desert, and it meets all development standards. And you'll see the existing site plan. It's the one that has the chain link fencing, if you know the property, and just to the right of that, you'll see the proposed site plan and see how they're oriented. There's one that sort of fronts Pierson, and then you got the two, and then the one in the back. The one in the back will be where the restroom facility will be, so that will be a little bit small. I think it's 100 square feet, and then the actual retail area for that one is 200. And in the middle, there's some seating areas, and that's where the canopy will overlap, for some shade. The environmental analysis for this is vacant land. It's devoid of any sensitive habitat and has adequate public utilities. And the project is exempt under CEQA guidelines class 32. This is an urban infill exemption, section 15332. So if approved, we will file a NOE. And it is our recommendation that staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission approve DP 21-15 with all of the draft conditions of approval. The applicants have been waiting very patiently all night, and I am also here for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McVeigh. At this time, any questions from staff, the Planning Commission? And I see Mr. Duffel is at the ready, so go right ahead, Vice Chair Duffel.
Mr. McVeigh, my only question this evening is you mentioned these are refurbished modular units, just like what we currently have down at the old City Hall. Looking at the elevations, and I may have missed it, that's why I'm asking you, are these buildings going to be set on the ground, or are they going to be up on jacks, if you?
Not on jacks.
Not on jacks.
Now, they will be meeting building codes and it should be slabs. I'll let the applicant probably go into a little bit further detail on that.
Okay.
But following the building official and all building codes, they can't just be placed there. And, they have to follow all the right processes and get through those codes so they can pass inspections. It's going to be done to the T, to the code.
Fantastic, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for
Yes.
Commissioner Meyerhoffen?
I think there's a little confusion about repurposed modular buildings. Are these going to be a cargo container that's going to be turned into a commercial retail?
Now, repurposed is what I should say, and these are modulars. They're not going to be shipping containers, nothing in that like.
Wow.
The applicant can go into more detail on that. It's very precise.
Well, I'm just kind of blown away here because I've been told by somebody else within the city that they're cargo containers, and when I look at that roof line and the weight sitting on those, I don't know.
It'll have to pass building codes, and you may be referring to, there's another project that is potentially using shipping containers.
No, this is the Pearson pop-up that I was told. I had that question for somebody, because when I looked at it, and actually I called Councilmember Betts up, and he talked to, I believe, somebody in the city, and they got back to me and said, no, they're cargo containers.
I
So this is
don't
where
know
my
who they spoke
confusion
to,
is,
but it
and-
wasn't me. And then in the staff report, it is repurposed modular buildings, is not
Okay.
shipping containers. So
All right,
it's right here.
we'll get to that part later. Are they going to be set right on the dirt, or is the whole thing going to be asphalt or
That
concrete?
would refer back to, like, it will be to code slabs, done right, to the building official and building code requirements. It will not be on the dirt.
Okay.
Commissioner Grant, do you have any questions for staff?
I just wanted to know, basically, I guess some of what the other questions that have been asked, what exactly is a repurposed modular, and what's the life expectancy? How many times can it be used? Those type of things as far as seismic conditions.
Well, I defer, I can't predict how long this building would be good for right here tonight. This will not be some shabby buildings coming in that are like, wow, what did we just approve? These are going to be very well designed, and it shows it in the actual exhibits that these is going to be a good project, not with like some shipping containers that are falling apart, they're not done right, they're going to be done very well. And when it's repurposed, it's just being that like it's been refurbished also too, to put the gleam back on, to like get rid of anything that's like possibly out of date and make it new. So there won't be, and this is going to be a really good looking project. You can see that in the exhibits. I will defer to the applicant for any very specific questions on his building, and that would probably be the best.
So it's a modular, not a shipping container, like a cargo shipping container?
Not shipping
still a
containers.
shipping container?
Not
So what
shipping.
exactly are the materials being used exactly?
Steel frame, wood and metal siding, and a wood banding with a metal canopy.
Would the roof then be metal? If that's the
Yes.
case, if it's a metal
Yes.
canopy?
Yes.
Okay. Is this, or will this be used for a restaurant?
Restaurants are permitted by right with no alcohol sales in this zone, so that would be up to any potential clients that may come along. No, anything, this is all retail commercial, there's no uses being proposed here that would require anything additional like a ABC license like before, or anything near that. This would just be for permitted by right uses.
So technically, it's a street, it's a commercial building and not any type of I guess want to say a pop-up. It's not a pop-up.
Well, that's just the name of it. That's the applicant's name. They're not easy ups, they're not gazebos here. No, this is fully built out project.
She's gone.
Anything, Commissioner Grant, anything else? Or,
No, not at this time. I'll wait for the applicant. Thank you.
okay. I believe Commissioner Meyerhoffen has another question.
Yes. I understand that Councilmember Betts was able to secure like $400,000 or something for some improvements on the
Oh, you're speaking above my pay grade.
on the way.
Assistant
Yeah.
planner.
Well, we'll have to bump you up a little bit next month. Okay, thank you.
I believe that Deputy City Manager Wilms would like to speak.
I think there's a little confusion, so if I may, we do have a couple projects going on along Pierson Boulevard right now. So we are in what we're kind of calling or referring to a pilot stage to spur some downtown revitalization. So for Commissioner Meyerhoffen, there is in fact a project that is working through the pike right now that does involve shipping containers. So it's possible that some of the communication just got a little bit crossed here. So there is a project, you will likely see that come forward. So that is not all is not lost there. And so that should come forward at a later date. With that being said, speaking of Mr. Feenstra's project, Mr. Feenstra is looking at some repurposed modular structures that would meet the California Building Code. And our building official, Eric, can speak to any questions that there may be as far as that is concerned. I will say this would be on a permanent foundation. And again, he can answer any of those questions. And for Commissioner Meyerhoffen and the funding that you mentioned, I don't want to get too far off topic, but as part of the downtown revitalization that we're working on, we have been able to work to secure a grant that would allow for some parking management plans in the downtown corridor and in the cannabis corridor. So that is what he's speaking to. And with that, I will close my statement.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing and gladly take testimony from the applicant, who, thank you for your patience. They've been waiting here for quite some time. Sorry, I did need to use the restroom, so I did need that recess. So please approach and speak.
Good evening. I have had the pleasure and privilege of serving on commissions before, so I understand that you've given up your dinner to listen to us. So our 15 or 9-minute wait was nothing. This is my wife, Sue Feenstra. She is an artist and a dog behaviorist, and we together run a business in Redlands taking care of dogs in a cage-free environment. But my main life has been centered around construction and building and mostly rehabbing properties. And I'm an environmentalist. I'm a hippie. I don't have the hair anymore, but you know, and there is no better way really to enhance our environment than to take an existing structure and make a new building out of it, and that's what we're trying to accomplish here. These buildings were actually used to house students at one time, and so they're safe. They're already have a moment frame built out of steel on all four sides, and they are 10 foot by approximately 30 feet large, and on the exterior is initially they were built as two separate buildings, three units per building, and we've torn them apart and we've made them into kind of a courtyard. When talking to staff previously, we've talked about, you know, things like outdoor dining, and they go in the wind. That's a good point here. We do have wind, and so the courtyard with a cover over it, a canopy over it, gives us an outdoor experience that addresses some of the environmental concerns, strong sunshine and extreme winds. And so that's partly how this design developed. We're very excited about it. Doria reached out to us at one point and said, hey, you know, we need to get something going in this neighborhood. This area was pretty much bought up at one time by redevelopment. We purchased these lots from the remainder organization of redevelopment from the city, and weren't exactly sure what we wanted to do with them, but this opportunity came up to recycle these buildings basically, and that's where we're at. They will sit on permanent foundations. We're not proposing slab, but we'll work that out. We're proposing point-loaded pier system. You've seen these round tubes, I'm sure, with buildings sitting on them, and they would be partially in the ground to facilitate handicap access, because the floors are 9 inches above the bottom of the steel structure. So the interiors are 9-foot ceilings with another cavity of about 18 inches above that, where the old heating and air conditioning vents were, and that sort of thing. We will be putting in a cool roof on top, which is a coating that goes over the top because of the intense heat out here. And being metal buildings, they, of course, will get quite warm. So we do have maybe, and this is where the confusion came in, a second phase. We own 2 adjacent lots to this. And when the city we were talking in a group of people, it was suggested that we might want to do another project, and that project probably will be out of containers. But this part of this phase of the project is not. It consists of these 6 buildings, which we already own and are in the process of making look beautiful. Some of the building are T111 siding, which is what your city hall was. And if you could take your city hall building and then spread it out, you would see that one building would have one side that's sided, all the ends would be sided, and then the interior buildings would have no siding at all. And so that's what we are faced with, only we didn't have as many buildings in a row as you do. So I'm a kind of a Craigslist junkie, and some of these materials are going to be eclectic, and some will be recycled. We have some beautiful corrugated steel that we've been rusting naturally, which will go on some of the faces of it, and we're hoping to bring to Desert Hot Springs the ebb and feel of, let's say, Joshua Tree, where they've got that little section there where all the tourists go, and or the corner Pioneer in Yucca Valley, for instance. We want to bring something that's going to bring people to town. You have a tremendous golden opportunity to pull from Pearson at Highway 62, if you could do something with it. Right now, to make a right-hand turn, you have to go across those speed things, you know? Well, that's not very conducive to getting people, but we're hoping to start changing that. We hope that this is kind of the feeder project that brings a kind of an eclectic feel to that block. When I first saw that piece of property, that block of property, I go, you know, this is ideal for some kind of a cannabis-oriented retail environment here. And I set about, I did not get a degree in architecture, but I studied architecture, and I have 6 generations before me that were in architecture and construction. So I do drafting on my grandfather's old board with pencil and paper. And I drew up that whole section of the community, and I did, some of you, I know Daniel has one, that was a copy of my little draft of how we could incorporate this entire community into kind of a walking cannabis type experience. Now, I don't have pockets that are deep enough to do that, so it was kind of a dreamscape. But the dream for the city is still legitimate. And after a meeting, Dory heard some of my questioning and became interested in what we had to offer to the city and reached out to me, and I appreciate that. So we're hoping that this will be the beginning of something really remarkable that can happen in your city. And so, yeah, these buildings are off the wall. They're not going to be anything that you're going to see anywhere else. But we like that about it. And we like the fact that the city's willing to listen to us and ask us about it, because most communities, in Riverside County, and particularly the county itself, said, there's no way that you're putting those buildings anywhere in our county. And I'm saying, you know what, that's part of the problem. You know, we're under an environmental threat here. And I know I'm not going to change it alone, but this is one way of contributing to preserving the environment by not just trashing perfectly good buildings, by making them something new. And we have a piece of artwork out in the front of it. And I'm going to turn this over to my wife because she's the artist.
They might like to ask you some questions first.
Well, you can say yours,
Okay.
and then so they can ask both of us.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Sue Feenstra, and I am an artist, and I'm also a canine behaviorist, as Richard said, but I do have an art degree. And the mural that is designed, it's a very basic mural, very bright colors, and you know, it is to attract people to the project. And it is also, you know, to continue the art. I love the art that you have in your streets, your sculptures. I think that's beautiful. And this project was also, because it is a public space, when Richard and I do a project, we like to have an activity that involves the public, you know, that is a fun thing. So what we are proposing, and it's a concept at this point, and of course it is all dependent upon COVID, if we're able to bring people together, is to have children participate in part of the painting of the mural. The very lowest part. We are not going to put kids on scaffolding with paint. Not a good idea. We'll paint that part. But the very bottom part, we would like to put together an event where they come and they have a very certain space that they paint one color, and all the children that participate would have their name on a plaque and their age saying that they helped paint this mural. And that's about it.
To answer your question, Ms. Grant, about the modular, these buildings were pre-made in a factory. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? I'm sorry. They were pre-made in a factory, and they were classroom buildings at one time. And so that's why they're modular. The reason they're pop-up is not because they're temporary, but because they come already built and they're up quickly. So that's where I got the Pearson pop-up as an inspiration for that name of that. Here's some buildings. Now you don't see them, now you do. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you for that. Stay tuned. At this time, I will take testimony from anyone that is in favor. Do we have anybody?
We do not.
Anybody opposed?
No.
Neutral?
No.
Okay. Don't see need for rebuttal. But it will take questions from staff, and I do see Commissioner Grant with her hand up, so go right ahead, Commissioner Grant.
No, I just have something to say. It's really nice that you're, first of all, repurposing and recycling and upcycling, as I would call it, these micro buildings to bring into as part of revitalization measures. I always think of Sullivan when form follows function, and it says my internet connection is unstable. So please let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Or no, can you hear me?
We can hear you. You're just, your visual's a little shaky.
I just wanted to say thank you. It's great to hear that you're also an artist. My main concern was about the temperature, and that was addressed by Mr. Feenstra. So I want to say thank you for that. Thank you and welcome. That's all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Grant. Anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Vice Chair Duffel, go right ahead.
We mentioned, or we had conversation about permanent foundations and earthquakes and all of that good stuff. I'm very familiar with permanent foundations and pier-style permanent foundations. If you do pier-style permanent foundations, it would be, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's a requirement, but I'm not 100% on it. Will these buildings have earthquake strapping to be able to assist during earthquakes with load shifts?
We're not as planned, but we do intend to put steel plates on top of the piers and weld the building to it, so that would essentially do the same thing. The earthquake strapping typically is for a building that's off the ground at least 18 inches, and we will not be. We will be actually in the ground about 6 inches. So.
Okay, now, when you're dealing with earthquakes and ground shifting, earthquake straps were designed to be able to shift and move with the ground or opposite the ground to help prevent structural damage in the event of a major earthquake. When you start welding to solid steel piers, even at that low of a height, you're not going to have that sway action, and you have the potential for those welds to break and your building to come off of your foundations.
The entire building is one moment frame. It's all welded together. You may be correct, and we could ask an engineer about that, but I don't see that being an issue. We don't have to weld them to the piers, but I think that at least welding some kind of a retention device so they don't shift an enormous distance. I understand what you're saying, and I agree that there's a concern there. We're not actually at that construction point in the project, but we'll have to work that out with Eric and see what he needs to make it clear to him that there'll be safe. Certainly they'll be as safe as your children are in those portable classrooms, maybe safer. So
Sure, thank you for that. That's all I had right now, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I see.
Commissioner Duffel, just to add to that, when the permit is ready to be reviewed, we're obviously going to go through that process where we look at the foundation system all the way from the connection points to, as the applicant said, the moment framing and how that's being modified. And through the construction process, all those welds and all the engineering will be reviewed and inspected by our inspectors. So we will take that into account. And alternative building methods obviously is becoming more popular. There's entire courses now on container modifications because it is becoming a more popular type of construction method. So we are open obviously to looking at it and reviewing that kind of a design.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I believe is it for the applicant? You have a question for the applicant or staff? Okay, we'll hold off on that for a second. Anybody else have questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
So at this time, I will close the public hearing and we can have some discussion. I know Commissioner Mayor Hoffman has a question for staff, so go right ahead.
I believe, Vice Chair Duffel, my experience with the earthquake straps for mobile homes, they didn't require them years ago, but we had an earthquake, and what happened is the mobile homes would fall off of the jacks and come through the floor. So that was the purpose of the earthquake jacks. I was going to ask if Eric would please explain that when there's either this project or a cargo container or I'm not being funny, they actually do it in San Bernardino, something built out of sandbags. Would you please explain what the building codes are and how that's done to?
So when any sort of design that comes in, whether it be modular, pre-manufactured, or site-built, site-specific, there are different approaches at it. The state has its own regulations as to modular or pre-manufactured units and how they review those and what they could be used for. Along with that could be modifications that same housing element or that same division looks at and allows. So through that process, depending on to what extent these units are modified, obviously we take an approach that's site specific. This is a very unique project that obviously is doable, it's possible. People have modified pre-manufactured units whether they be on jacks or any sort of other foundation system. Those foundation systems are in a sense unique for that specific site, depending on the location. Obviously, we have the wind factor is very important to us. And not only with that, but we also have seismic. We're very, as you know, the location, we do take that into account. And the building code does address that pretty strict nowadays. So we'll look at what the applicant will be doing. Nonetheless, any sort of project that comes in from the state, whether it be manufactured for that specific use or will be modified for an alternative use, such as some of the units are brought in for, let's say, they're used to house students or they're used to be a classroom. Each one will have to be modified per that, not only for the use, but also for compliance with ADA or accessibility compliance, because these units will be for the public. So we're going to take that into account. Door widths, sometimes those have to be modified. Restrooms do come as well. Those get modified as well. The approaches, the tolerances that we have for the actual size of the restroom. So a lot of little tweaks and modifications might have to be done, but a site-specific approach will be done for this particular unit. I hope I answered a little bit of your question.
Yes, you do. So in layman's terms now, the same codes for a house will be used for a cargo container or a modular building. The plumbing codes, electrical codes, fire codes, all those codes will be basically the same as for the homeowner.
That's right. So these units, because they're going to be commercial use, they fall under the California Building Code. Not to bore you guys with all the codes, but each building code is applicable to the use. So in that case, like the residential, we follow the California Residential Code. For a commercial use, we follow not only the California Building Code, but we also follow the California Plumbing Code, California Electrical Code, which also ties in with the National Electrical Code, California Mechanical Code. A lot of fun codes, and one of the funnest ones nowadays is the one that we all get to enjoy is the Title 24, all of the energy efficiency requirements that California so lovely has put on everyone that builds out here. So we do look at all those, and they will adhere to all that as well.
Okay, then I just want to make sure that was clear in case the residents drive down Pearson and see this going on. They wonder what's going on. So for those who are listening, we'll be able to spread the word. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Grant, I see your hands raised. Did you want to contribute?
I had a question for staff, just following and looking at the conditions of approval. Was there sewer on that site already? There should have been. Was there? Is there?
Sewer is available on Pierson Boulevard.
Right, but did that was there an existing structure? I think that's what I'm asking that had. You said there was something there. That's what I'm trying to ask.
That's why there's actually addresses on these parcels, if you want to call them that still, because there was something there at some time. So whenever they were knocked down at some point in the past, they capped the utilities at the curb.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question.
Go
If the
ahead,
city
Commissioner
staff,
Meyer.
pardon me?
Go ahead.
If the city staff would please bring up page, what was it, number 30? We can get that photo up there. Has the police department seen this design?
Yes.
And
I
what-
routed it to all departments,
And what-
and the chief of police had no conditions.
No conditions, so he's seen it? He's okay with the visibility of what might be going on inside with the kids?
Yes, and there
when
are
they drive by?
standard conditions to eliminate crime, but there were no specific conditions from the chief.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, any discussion among ourselves? Anybody? I just want to say I reviewed this. I am pretty excited. It's one of the things, if those of us who attended the workshops for the previous housing element, I know we're in the middle of the current one, but the catch-up one a couple years ago, we had maps everywhere and what people wanted to see. And one of the biggest things was people wanted things that they could walk to. And also, given that we do have quite a number of people who come here for tourism. One of the big questions we get is, what is there to do? And in terms of a lot of things that they want to do, they end up going to Palm Springs. I think this is a fantastic idea. I also think, being an artist, you probably understand this. You know, this might be an opportunity to get some artists in the community involved where they have these small shops. People like that kind of stuff. They like to take home a piece of work from where they, or a piece of art from where they were as like a memento. So I think this is a really, my opinion, is a great project. If there's no other discussion, I'm happy to entertain a motion regarding this.
Commissioner comments on this one here? I'm having a hard time following along here for some reason.
This is our discussion, yes.
Okay. I like the building and everything. I think it's really kind of unique. But I don't think that we should be putting this on Pearson Boulevard, along with cargo containers and things. What if a developer wants to come along and put up a 2-story building there in Pearson? How will he compete with rentals with this type of project? So I think for the future development, it's going to hurt. I realize we haven't done anything on Pearson for 25 years that I can remember, and why that is, I have no idea. I'd like to know. All the metal on it and sitting inside that without a breeze coming through it, my experience out here in the desert is you put something on the top, the heat gets trapped. All the metal, it's just not environmentally friendly because now you got to cool off all that metal. And the landscaping is, there's no shade trees for anything. There's no overhang on the roof to make it look aesthetically correct. So, for those reasons, I'm opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyerhoffen. Any other discussion? Vice Chair Duffel?
I've had the opportunity off and on to sit on different commissions in the city for a few years now. Had the opportunity to work with Commissioner Grant in arts and public places and things like that. And I've taken a very good look at this. And to be honest with you, I am quite pleased with what's come forward. I've been asking for 2 years for developers to bring forward new ideas and step outside of the box and create some original thinking to bring to Desert Hot Springs so that we can be Desert Hot Springs and not the next Palm Springs or the next Palm Desert or Rancho Mirage. We are Desert Hot Springs. We don't want to try and be someone else because we are special in our own right. Seeing an applicant come forward with a design like this that has truly stepped outside of the box, bringing arts into public places, bringing community involvement or potential community involvement, and taking the time and energy to repurpose something that may just eventually one day fill up a landfill and not be used for today's society, to progress today's society, would be an absolute mistake, I think. With that being said, I think that this is an absolutely phenomenal idea. I think that the steps that have been taken to create this idea and bring it to fruition has been absolutely phenomenal. And with that being said, I would like to make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Vice Chair Duffel. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Commissioner Nindell. I will take a vote. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Grant?
Aye.
Commissioner Meyerhoffen?
No.
Commissioner Nindell?
Aye.
Vice Chair Duffel?
Aye.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes with Commissioner Meyerhoffen in opposition.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to you getting started on that. Our last item of the night right now, number 7, development permit number 21-13.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, let me read it and
Okay.
I will Lenya. Development permit number 21-13, conditional use permit number 21-13, an amendment to a previously approved project to develop an anaerobic digester facility on a 9.76 acre parcel. Vice Chair Duffel, please.
Yes, on this item, I would like to recuse to avoid any potential accusations of bias.
I appreciate that. So Vice Chair Duffel is going to recuse from this. I see your hand up, Commissioner Grant.
Yes, sure. If I may, before we go forward with this particular agenda item, I would like to go back to what my original motion to reconsider for this applicant before we move forward.
Okay, so you are making a motion to reconsider, not this applicant per se. What specifically is your motion to reconsider?
I was earlier in the meeting when you told me that I was not following Rosenberg's rules of order.
Yes.
That basically for this particular applicant that will be coming up during our meeting on August the 24th, I specifically asked at that time. Please excuse me. Please excuse my interruption with my baby, but I asked to withdraw my vote from the meeting on August the 24th. It was never placed before the commission. I had a majority vote within that, and I wanted to go ahead and ask if the commission would allow me to change my vote at this time before we hear this agenda item.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you are making a motion to reconsider an item from the August 24th meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I will take a roll call vote, please. This is a roll call vote to reconsider the motion from August 24th.
Agenda item 7 or 6.
No, we are not on agenda. This is not agenda item 7. Agenda item 7
No, I'm saying agenda item 6 from the August 24th meeting. Yes.
Okay.
August 24th meeting.
So Commissioner Grant has made a motion to reconsider that item, and Commissioner Meyerhoffen has seconded. So roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Grant?
Aye.
Commissioner Meyerhoffen?
Yes?
Commissioner Nindell?
No?
Chairman Griffith?
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, motion has failed. At this time, we will move on to item number 7.
Excuse me, Chairman Griffin, the motion has failed.
The motion has failed.
How did it fail?
It was a 2-2 vote. A tie vote
Tie.
is a failure.
Tie votes are a failed motion.
All right.
That should have applied at the former meeting on August the 24th.
We will move on to item number 7. As we said, Vice Chair Duffel has recused. This is the amendment to a previously approved project to develop an anaerobic digester facility on a 9.7 acre parcel. Can I get a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. I'm just waiting for my PowerPoint. Thank you. The project site is located on a 9.76 acre parcel north of 19th Avenue and east of Calle de los Romos within the light industrial zoning district. The previously approved project included the development of a 22,900 square foot anaerobic digester building, a 3,000 square foot administration facility, as well as other equipment as shown here. The amendment before you now proposes a 39,590 square foot anaerobic digester, which is an increase of square footage. A 3,000 square foot office building remains the same as previously approved, in addition of a 15,730 square foot receiving building, and also the addition of a 1,110 square foot maintenance building, as well as other minor changes to the site. Shown here is a colored rendering of the overall project with a landscape that will include hybrid mesquite, California fan palms, and other desert-friendly landscape. On July 28, 2020, the Planning Commission approved Development Permit Number 20-9 and Conditional Use Permit Number 20-12, and in doing so, certified the mitigated negative declaration for the project. With that said, this is for the Planning Commission's consideration of Development Permit Number 20-13 and Conditional Use Permit Number 20-13, an amendment to a previously approved project for the development of an anaerobic digester facility on a 9.76 acre parcel, subject to the conditions of approval and findings on APN 666-360-018. That concludes my report. I'm available if you have any questions, and the applicant is also here. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for staff on this?
I do. It's
Commissioner
not
Mandel.
clear to me what the differences are between the originally approved project and the proposed amended ones.
Yeah. Can we pull up the PowerPoint, please? So this is showing the previously approved site plan, which included a anaerobic digester building 1, which is a 22,900 square foot building, and building 2 is a 3,000 square foot building. And then the nitrogen liquid storage building was also removed, and then this is the proposed. So they reconfigured the site plan, they increased the anaerobic digester building, they relocated the office building to the west side, and then they added the additional 2 buildings.
Okay.
So this is the previously approved, and then this is the proposed.
And what was the reason for these changes?
I can defer to the
To
applicant.
increase
yeah.
the size of the building though, but why was that necessary? I'm just curious.
Again, we can ask the applicant.
Okay.
Commissioner Grant, you have your hand up. You have questions?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Meyerhoff, any questions?
No, I don't.
I do have a question, and I know that you can answer this. And that is that, yeah, I did see the increase in size, and I have the plans. But just for clarification, that the biogas that is produced from this will be piped over to a power generation facility. I believe that is not on site, that is actually at the site next door. Is that correct?
I believe so, but again, we can defer to the applicant.
Okay, I have no other questions for you. If there's no other questions this time, I would like to open the public hearing and have the applicants talk to us.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Mr. Warner.
Hi, this is Ethan Warner, Managing Partner at Renewable Organics Management. We're developing this project. Just very quickly to answer your questions, the changes were made because of the conditions in the conditional use permit. Some of those required us to, or asked us to cover up some of the processing areas and make sure it wasn't exposed to wind. Things couldn't blow away. So the bulk of the changes were done to kind of tighten up the site and make sure that we wouldn't have anything blowing around. And as well, the building, actually, it didn't get bigger. We just kind of combined a couple of them, I believe. The actual facility size and the generation of it and everything else remains completely unchanged. And on your second point, the gas that's generated is compressed into a tanker truck and is leaving site to go for injection into the pipeline system. So it's not actually on site, it's a ways away.
Oh, okay.
So just having said that, we're very excited to get this project going, and we spent a lot of time making sure that the revised site will comply with all of the conditions and all of the concerns that we heard from council last time when we got our initial approval. So if anybody has any questions related to the site or any of the changes, we're here to answer them.
Thank you. I would say stay tuned, because I will probably have a question in a moment. At this time, is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this?
No, we did not have anyone additional. Oh, Dan Hoffman.
Yes, Mr. Hoffman?
Nope.
I see a hand up. I don't hear anything.
He's not muted.
Okay. Anybody opposed?
No, the only other speaker I have registered is Ignacio Sanchez, who's also here.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
I am a part owner and partner for the development of this site, and just wanted to say, we're looking forward to developing the site and getting it up and running. It's renewable energy, and I think that's good for the environment. I think this project is good for the city of DHS.
Thank you. No opposed, no. Okay, at this time, take questions from commissioners. Commissioner Meyerhoffen, I see your mic's on. Are you have questions?
I have no questions. Thank you for asking.
Okay. Anybody? I do, but Commissioner Grant, any questions for the applicant?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Ninda? No. I just want, if you, Mr. Warner or whoever, wouldn't mind, I asked about the power generation because I believe in the materials I was giving, and maybe it's left over from the last time that it was just supposed to be piped over. Is that, and now we're saying that's not correct, right?
No, and that is because there was some hope that we could connect into the Southern California gas system right at the site on Indian Canyon, but it appears that would be a many-year, many millions of dollar process dealing with Sempra and SoCal Gas. So we've chosen to go the route that we normally do with our developments in California, which is to move it to an existing injection point that has already been approved and developed and doesn't have a half a decade wait time on it.
I can appreciate that. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, at this time, I will close the public hearing and allow for some discussion. Do we have any discussion among commissioners? See none. Commissioner Grant, yes or no?
No, I was just looking at the agenda as far as the biomass, so no, nothing.
Okay. I'd just like to say, I've toured one of these facilities. I toured one in Paris, and I actually, several years ago, had a meeting with former city manager Chuck Maynard and told him that I thought Desert Hot Springs would be a good location for this because we do have the energy overlay over there. It's a great way of using what is considered green waste and turning it into something useful. So I myself am very much in favor of these types of projects. Having said that, if there's no other discussion, I'm happy to entertain a motion on this item.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Meyerhoffen. Do I second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. I have a second from Commissioner Grant. I'll take a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Grant?
Aye.
Commissioner Meyerhoffen?
Yes.
Commissioner Nindell?
Yes.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, everybody. At this time, if we could get Mr. Nindell back in here. Not Mr. Nindell, Vice Chair Duffel. Okay, at this time, do we have any other public comments outstanding? Any public comments?
No, there are none.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to Chair and Planning Commission member reports. And I'm going to finish, but I'm going to start off by stating some stuff. The purpose of these chair and planning commission member reports is to report things that are of interest. For example, if you attended the housing element community workshop, that would be something of interest. If you had some kind of reimbursement for something you did for the city, those sorts of notable things, you attended the state of the city. The purpose is not for this to be a complaint session. And I know that's what it's become. And as chair, I'm going to tell you, it's not what I want. It's not our purpose here. Our purpose is to come in, have our meetings, do our job. If we have something to report, report it, and then go home. If you're going to sit here and complain about things that you don't understand, I'm not going to allow it, okay? So if you have something important that you feel you need to say that is not a complaint or things you don't like about city ordinances, then I'm willing to listen. But if it's going to be complaints because you're not happy with how things are, I'm not really going to entertain that. Having said that, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Commissioner Meyerhoff.
And where in Rosenberg's Rules of Order did you find this?
That in itself is not in Rosenberg's Rules of Order, but I did talk to people, and that is the purpose of these. And if you don't like it, then you can take that somewhere else. But I'm not going to entertain constant complaints. It's not going to be a circus.
Well, I haven't.
That's my decision.
I don't know who's been complaining. I haven't.
I didn't say you
I've
were.
been bringing up things that I think that are of importance. So, okay, then let me ask this. And I think it's a legitimate question. Maybe one of the commissioners here can,
It's time for comments, not questions.
Okay, here's my comment. All you commissioners have at least 3 years' experience or more. Why is it in 25 years we don't have anybody developing anything on Pearson Boulevard?
Thank you for your comment. Any other commissioners have comments?
No, nobody wants to answer that question, or nobody knows? It's not up for, I'm not asking for a discussion or debate.
It's time for
I'm not
comments. It's
complaining.
not time for you
It's a
to.
legitimate question that I'm asking you.
It is a legitimate question, but this is not, you don't get to question the other commissioners. That's
I'm not
the thing.
questioning, I'm asking a question. I'm not, okay.
Okay.
If I ask a question, a simple answer as to why we haven't been able to develop anything for 25 years. I think that's a legitimate question. All
Perhaps
I'm looking
because of
for is a
this.
legitimate answer, not a conversation. And you said this yourself, this is not in Rosenberg's Rules of Order. You're just not going to allow it because it's something you come up with.
Well, you know what? That's true. I am the chair, and so I'm going to make the rules when it comes to this stuff right now.
And
so
I have the
I'm
right to
I'm gonna tell
challenge
you,
the
you're not
chair
gonna
and
question.
bring that, I have the right to challenge the chair and bring that decision up for debate.
Okay.
Okay. I disagree with it. Now, why are you doing it? It's not in Rosenberg's Rules of Order. You have no legal basis to
I do have a
say
legal
what you're
basis.
saying. And I'm bringing this up.
It's an
for you.
opportunity for you to give input in terms of if you have attended certain things. We had a housing element workshop, and at the last meeting, not one commissioner brought that up. All right?
I attended here, if you want to know, and I believe that Nindell was present. So I did attend the housing element workshop. As a matter of fact, I asked at that time, excuse me for cutting you off, Commissioner Meyerhoff, and excuse me, Chair, for intruding on this part of the conversation, not to be a part of a circus or anything like that. But I did attend the housing element. Nindell was present, and at that time I asked would there be something, because we did not have sufficient part of the public there. So I was present.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner Grant. Anyone else have anything to add? Okay. With that, meeting's adjourned.